Am I the a-hole for naming my baby after my biological father? My 30 female mom and bio dad were addicted to drugs when she got pregnant. She got sober and my bio dad tried but struggled, but they decided before I was born that it would be best if he weren't around, at least until he cleaned up his act. When I was 6 months old, my mom met the man she'd later marry and would also adopt me. He's really the only father figure I've ever known. They never hid I was adopted, but my adoptive father has treated me the same as my younger siblings. When I was 13, I got into contact with my bio dad. He reached out as I had no way to contact him. He was finally sober. My parents allowed us to develop a relationship. We grew very close, and while I didn't call him dad, I love him very much. Sadly, a year later, he relapsed and overdosed. It devastated me, not just to lose him, but also what we could have had if he had remained sober. I eventually got into therapy to help with everything. Now, I'm married and expecting my first child. My parents have been amazing and supportive. My dad walked me down the aisle at my wedding, and they are so excited to be grandparents. My husband and I recently found out we're having a boy, and we've decided to name him after my biological father to honor his memory. He wasn't a bad guy. He was just mentally ill, had PTSD, and struggled a lot in life. He loved me enough to know I deserved better and let my dad adopt me. I had an amazing life because he was selfless and self-aware enough. So, I told my parents and they did not take it well. My dad was quiet and just obviously sad. My mom asked how I could name my child after the man who abandoned me. She said I don't have to name my child after my adoptive father, but she's going to struggle with calling her grandchild by the name of the man who couldn't clean up his act and then traumatized her daughter. I found him when he overdosed. She and my dad left shortly later. Now my mom isn't speaking to me, and my dad said it's ultimately my choice and I'll respect it, but it does hurt. This name does not work as a middle name, and my dad didn't have a middle name. I feel so conflicted. I don't want to dredge up bad memories for my mom or make my dad uncomfortable, but my bio dad means a great deal to me. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. No a-holes here. You can name your child what you want, but your mom's not an a-hole for being upset by your choice. We should also consider the kid to be here. There are almost infinite names out there. I don't know why you'd name your kid something that will create distance between that kid and their grandparents, or why you'd saddle your child with a legacy of an addict who abandoned their kid and then died early. Meh, selfishness has its limits. You're the a-hole, OB. I feel so conflicted. I don't want to dredge up bad memories for my mom or make my dad uncomfortable, but my bio dad means a great deal to me. Am I the a-hole? Unless you're prepared to lose your relationship with your mom and your entire family who you claim to care about, you better rein in your impulsiveness and think about the bigger picture. If your bio dad was just your run-of-the-mill deadbeat, this could be excused, but he caused so much pain and left bad memories to the people around you that I struggle to see how you can think this would be a good idea. And you've only known this guy for a year. The version you saw was only a fraction of what he truly was as a person. I doubt the fantasy version of your bio dad you cooked up in your head even existed. Edit. My husband and I recently found out we're having a boy. We've decided to name him after my biological father to honor his memory. Are you sure it was a we decision? Or you could give your baby a totally different name, so he isn't burdened by your bio father's memory. I was looking for this comment. Many reasons that Opie wants to use this name, but one of them she seems to forget is this child will grow up eventually knowing it's named after a drug addict who abandoned his child. Talk about an issue that will need therapy when the kid is older. My cousin named his son after his brother who died of a heroin overdose. My cousin who died was named after our great-grandpa who died young and had a difficult life. Great-grandpa was apparently also named after a grandpa who died young. Needless to say, cousin's son doesn't understand why he was given the name to honor his uncle who died young of an overdose, when everyone with that name also died young, and he assumes he's going to die young too, because that's the legacy he was given. I get wanting to honor your bio dad, but maybe find another way. Next story. Am I the a-hole for allowing daughter to exclude family? My daughter's 5th birthday is coming up and we are having a party with family. My husband and I agreed to let my daughter choose who she wants to invite. She chose to invite everyone in my family and my husband's family, except for my husband's mom and stepfather. A bit of backstory is that my mother-in-law and father-in-law live out of state and have taken absolutely no interest in my daughter's life. They haven't even seen her in 3 years. During the past 3 years, my husband and I have tried to get them to FaceTime my daughter, but to no avail. My mother-in-law recently, as in the last few weeks, started calling her once a week or so, but it took so many attempts to even get to that point. My mother-in-law and father-in-law are both retired, so the lack of effort is certainly not due to a lack of time. They are also financially well off and have taken many trips in the last few years, just not to see us. Well, my mother-in-law and father-in-law invited themselves out here during the days of my daughter's birthday and birthday party, so when they found out my daughter doesn't want them here, they were very offended. My mother-in-law is complaining to the rest of my husband's family about how hurt she is, but I'm of the mindset that she has made no effort with my daughter, so why should my daughter have to include her in her birthday? But my husband is starting to feel guilty, and the rest of his family saying how hurt his mom is. So am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. Are you really blaming this on the whims of a 5-year-old? What if she randomly decided that she didn't want anyone from your side of the family there? Why would you even tell them they weren't wanted by your 5-year-old? Why create that tension when you claim that you want them to have a relationship? You want them to be salty at a 5-year-old? To me, it sounds retaliatory. You were all too happy to let them know they were being rejected because you felt rejected. Are we really all cuddling a grown adult who can't be bothered to develop a relationship with a grandchild and then wants a freaking pity party because they're not special enough to be thought of by said grandchild? LOL. I really love Reddit. This makes me think of all those parents who force their kids to hug/kiss family members, even when the kid says no. Trample all over those boundaries early, I guess. Info. I'm pretty suspicious here. Your daughter is 5. I'm skeptical you didn't lead her towards this decision in any way. Did she make a list of people she wanted to invite and didn't mention them? Did you ask and she said no? Yes, I'd also like to know what the daughter says is her reasoning for not inviting them. If a kid says they don't want to be around someone, that should be respected. Does she have other reasons for being uncomfortable besides never seeing this person before? She's 5. 5-year-olds don't need good reason to do something. I assure you, her grandparents have not been sneaking in from out of state to traumatize her behind her parents' backs for years. And no, a 5-year-old's desire to not do something shouldn't be unilaterally respected. There's a reason they're not allowed to make life decisions for themselves. Should a 5-year-old also be allowed to refuse to eat vegetables or take vitamins? What if they don't want a shot? Unlike everybody else, not a-hole. They haven't made any effort, and I believe that 5 is old enough to realize if someone doesn't pay any attention to you. All young children notice if someone ignores them. If she truly said she doesn't want them there, then that's fine. That's her choice, and as long as you didn't coach her, not a-hole. Even if not seeing her in person was due to the pandemic, wouldn't you do anything possible to see your grandchild, like for example, FaceTiming, which she has only started to do recently? Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving equal payment to my in-laws versus my parents? It should really state are we the a-holes because this absolutely was a decision my husband and I made together and both felt was fair and generous. I recently won a large sum of money. It's not life-changing, quit your job and never work again type of amount, but it's significantly more money than I've ever had in my account before. My husband and I talked at great lengths about sharing the money, what it would look like, and alternatives such as paying for a family vacation. And we decided to gift each household of our immediate family $20,000 each. So my mother-in-law/father-in-law received $20,000. Both of my sister-in-laws, one married and one single, my brother and his family, my mother and my father and stepmother all received equal amounts regardless of whether they were married or single, kids or no kids. One of my sister-in-laws has mentioned that my mother-in-law is complaining that they should have received $40,000 to make it fair, since my parents are divorced and they each got $20,000. Since I only have one sibling, we thought it worked out nice and evenly since each side of the family is getting $60,000 total between each of the 3 households. My husband is embarrassed and annoyed that his mom isn't being more grateful. And while it wouldn't break us financially to give them the extra, it feels unfair to my parents to get less just because they aren't married anymore. Now for the comments. Is it too late to give her nothing? Not a whole. Tell her to want in one hand and crap in the other, and see which fails faster. Tell her she could keep what she got, or she could get it taken away and not have any. You are clearly not the a-holes. The entitlement of people is truly baffling. Sorry, are you one of my parents? because that phrase wasn't exactly common in our household, but came up from time to time. You have one sibling to give $20,000 to. He has two. As stated, each side of your family, yours and his, received $60,000. Not the a-hole. And your mother-in-law sounds ungrateful. Also, your sister-in-law should have never mentioned she'd said that. It was probably a private mother/daughter convo that wasn't meant to go any further. That's a good point. I never thought maybe it was a private venting that shouldn't have made its way to us. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law are notorious for sharing each other's venting to my husband, and then he starts bending over backwards to solve it. But nobody ever tells him anything directly. I always tell him unless the person has said something to him. His mom and sister are both grown women who can express their own feelings instead of having the other run interference. His life is much happier now that he doesn't jump as soon as one tells him the other isn't happy about something. Lol. They're lucky to get anything. I won the lottery, and each member of my family got a $50 Starbucks card. Haha, I'm starting to think that would have been a smarter idea. OP, you need to read a Reddit post about what to do when winning the lotto. It's such a good idea. I sold something I created for big money I was not expecting, and told no one. I followed the advice given on that post, and I'm happy to say I blew all the money on Coke and hoops, and no one asked me for a dime. I would not give them a penny moving forward and limit contact. Not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not giving back a bike my cousin gave me for free because he thought it was trash? About a month ago, I got a free bike off my cousin, an old red beach cruiser of unknown make. I needed a bike because my last one was stolen, and I'm too broke to buy a new one. My cousin then told me he had an old beat-up bike in his parents' backyard, and I could have it if I wanted it. When I picked it up, it looked a mess. Covered in mud, rusty chain, nicked paint, dry cracking on the white sidewalls of the tires. There was even moss on it, but I took it anyway and thanked them. I got it home, cleaned it up, touched up the paint with nail polish, lubed the chain with WD-40, put new $7 grips on it, tightened the rear gear, cleaned most of the rust off any chrome, put on an aluminum kickstand that a bike shop tossed out as garbage, and it became my daily rider. The tubes and tires are still good, and I got it back on the road for less than $10. And honestly, I like it. Ride's a little bouncy, but a coaster brake is fun and it's simple and reliable. The problem is my cousin saw me riding it last week, and at first didn't recognize it as the same bike. It was so covered in mud previously that he thought it was rusted over. And now he says that I scammed him and that he wants $60 for the bike, or give it back so he could sell it. I've refused and said he didn't want it in the first place, and I like riding it. Now he's calling me a jerk and telling his friends and family I've robbed him. The family are all on my side, including his parents, while his friends think I'm a jerk. But I'm the one who put the work into fixing his bike he gave me free as trash. And I'm the one who actually uses it, unlike my cousin. So I'm here of an unbiased opinion. Am I the a-hole for not giving the bike back or not giving money for it? Edit. Yes, I know WD-40 wasn't a permanent solution for the bike chain, and I will get a proper lube for it later. I only use it for the moment because I already had it on hand, and it loosens rust well, because it's made for that. I needed the chain working right away as I was already using the bike to go to work a day later. WD-40 is a stated penetrating lubricant, among other things. It's just not a steady lubricant because it dries out. The chain is working fine for the moment, and I'll get the right kind of grease/lube soon. Not the a-hole. If he wants the bike back, he should be willing to pay you money for the grips, WD-40, kickstand, and labor. I already had a WD-40, and the kickstand was free. The only things I had money into was the grips and dollar store nail polish. But it was still a day's labor to get it roadworthy again. Call a bike shop and ask what their hourly rate is for repairing a bike. Tell your cousin he can have the bike back, minus the cost of repair material plus the labor you spent on it. I guarantee that it will be more than $60, and probably more than he could sell the bike for. He doesn't get to profit off your labor for free. I know what the local bike shop's hourly rate is $25 an hour, plus the cost of the parts. Obviously not the a-hole. Your cousin is being ridiculous. He gave you a bike that apparently he thought was completely useless, and perhaps not even usable. And now that you fixed it up, he thinks you scammed him? What a joke. His friends are on his side because they are his friends, and because he likely didn't explain the situation fully or correctly to them. Don't worry about what they think. Exactly. The cousin is trying to scam and take advantage of OP. The cousin saw the bike as trash that got taken off of his hands. He didn't have to take the time or the energy required to discard it. Now that OP has taken the time to repair the bike and proven that it still works, the cousin wants to swindle OP to make a quick buck. And like you said, the scammer cousin probably only told his friends half of the story. What was your cousin expecting? That you were going to ride it still covered in moss and dirt? I was expecting the story to turn into the bike being a special edition that was worth a fortune. Wonder what your cousin has told his friends to make them on his side. As far as I can tell, the bike is nothing special, nor is it vintage. Maybe it is worth $60 in its current condition, because some people seem to want a fair amount for used beach cruiser. But it was basically worthless when I got it.